Hey everybody, it is Gordon Majak here, back with another episode of Timeless Pop, Rock, and Soul. And today, once again, we are returning to the 1980s for another one of my favorite songs from that entire decade. Another example of some of that great pop, soul pop, pop R&B, whatever you want to call it there. This is just another great one, and one that I always liked from the very start back there in the early 80s. But the crazy thing about this is the backstory behind this song, how it came to be and how it came to sort of kick off such an incredible comeback in the career of this fine artist that we're going to be listening to and talking about. This song played such a pivotal role in this person's career. It's just crazy to look back on it now and see what a turning point this song was. And that's not even talking about how great it is musically, because it is just sheer perfection musically and vocally, and that's why it's one of my faves. So let's see what I'm talking about. The backstory for this song is just crazy. This is the single release from the late fall, November of 1983. It is the one and only, the true queen herself, the queen of rock and roll, the great Tina Turner. And this is a single called Let's Stay Together, which of course is Tina's fine remake of the classic Al Green song. And she absolutely crushes it, as you will hear. But as I said, the really remarkable thing about this song, here's a slightly more recent and better picture of Tina, perhaps, giving it all she's got. And as you can see, she's got a lot to give, the great Tina Turner. So going back to 1983, and this song, Let's Stay Together, Tina Turner's cover of this immortal Al Green classic, it's really sort of funny. When I reflect on this now, and as I was getting this song ready to play today, if you think about Tina Turner in the perspective and in light of how we think about her today. Now, Tina Turner is going to be, 83 years old this year, okay? So, it only seemed like she was going to live forever, right? But Tina is aging just like the rest of us mortals. But be that as it may, Tina's going to be 83 this year. And when you just think about her career in her life, I suppose, from this context of now, from this current perspective, it just looks like one big, incredible, continuous stream of success and incredible success, right? Just nonstop, incredible success in all of her endeavors. But that's really not the case at all. And there was a period there. Now, of course, let's just go back to the beginning really quick with Tina Turner, because, of course, Ike and Tina Turner Review there back in the 60s, that's when they started dropping the first of a handful of songs that just, of course, changed music and had such a great impact on the pop, rock, and soul scene back there in the 60s, starting with, of course, the classic River Deep Mountain High. That was the first one that really made such a huge splash for Ike and Tina Turner. That was back in 1966. 5 years later, it's another just all-timer for them. And what can you even say? This performance of this particular song, and this is now January 1971. How about Ike and Tina Turner doing Proud Mary? I think we can put Ike and Tina doing Proud Mary right in there with Elvis maybe doing Heartbreak Hotel and Jailhouse Rock, and maybe the Beatles doing Hard Day's Night and some of that stuff. I mean, that's got to be Proud Mary. Ike and Tina Turner has got to be one of the single most iconic musical moments and musical events in the history of pop, rock, and soul, isn't it? Isn't that one just one of those one in a gazillion moments? I would sure think so. And then, of course, a couple years later, the third big hit for them that was such a big splash for Ike and Tina Turner, that was in 1973, summer of 73, and that was Nutbush City Limits, another big hit on the pop and R&B charts for Ike and Tina. So they really sort of established their identity and their signature there, and that was really, those three songs, that was really the crux of the legend of Ike and Tina Turner. And in the years after that, now Nutbush City Limits was in 73, and they released their last single a few years after that in 75. Then they split up. Tina Turner's got more problems than she can handle. Her career's in trouble. She's got financial trouble and legal trouble. She's got problems with Ike. There's just all kinds of stuff going on. And meanwhile, through it all, being the trooper that she is, of course, Tina is trying to do everything she can to stay afloat as a human being and as an artist and as a singer and as a performer. She's doing everything she can to just survive and make it through these incredible hard times that came after the breakup with Ike Turner. So by the time we get up here to 1983, well, actually, let's go back to 1982. So Tina Turner's just scrapping along there throughout the rest of the 70s and into the early 80s, just trying to keep afloat in the business and stay somewhat connected to the business. And now she's already, as we get into the 1980s, Tina's coming up there and she's in her early 40s already, okay? So this isn't exactly the optimum time to be trying to jumpstart or kickstart or restart your career as a pop rocker, soul icon or singer, even though certainly Tina she was already a legend, right? I mean, she could have never done another record after those ones that I mentioned with Ike and Tina, and she would have still been considered a legend for what they did, because those three songs were just so huge for Ike and Tina Turner. But that's not my point. The point is, she was already considered a legend in a certain way, but Tina was also considered back then it was kind of a nostalgia thing, right? Okay, yeah, that's part of that oldies thing, from the old Ike and Tina Turner review. And how many times can you do those old songs? But she was just trying to stay afloat and do whatever she had to do. Well, in 1982, she just, in a sort of random and roundabout way, ended up getting connected with Martyn Ware and the other guys there in the UK band Heaven 17, and they ended up doing kind of a one-shot thing. They did a collaboration. Tina was not even a signed artist at this point. She's unsigned. She's just out there floating around in the musical universe trying to do whatever she can, as I said, to stay afloat. Well, she ends up doing this one-off collaboration with Martyn Ware and the guys from Heaven 17 there, a song for a benefit album, and she ends up doing the vocals with them and collaborating on a remake of the old Temptation song, Ball of Confusion. Well, it apparently, surprisingly, despite just being sort of a one-off shot there, it surprisingly ended up catching someone's ear, and it ended up becoming a minor hit over there in Europe. Well, on the basis of that, somebody at Capitol Records got the bright idea, hey, maybe there's something that we can do here with Tina Turner and with these guys, Martyn Ware and these guys from Heaven 17. So at that point, Capitol Records steps in, and very quietly, sort of under the radar, because as I said, Tina was not a real happening thing right then in 1982, right? So the label steps in and signs her, sort of an under the radar signing of an artist at that point. And they set about trying to find some material and trying to find a way to create a sound for Tina Turner, which leads them to recording a cover of the incredible Al Green song, Let's Stay Together. Now, the funny thing about this is, on a personal angle, as I said, back there, before all of this happens, which I'll get to here in a second, before all of this turnaround and this success and this comeback happens, Tina was perceived pretty much as kind of a nostalgic act. Well, now, I remember in 1982, so this is a full year before Let's Stay Together. And this is now the same year as I'm talking about that she ended up doing that collaboration with the guys from Heaven 17 on that Ball of Confusion, the Temptations cover song for a benefit album, right? Okay. I have a personal connection here in a weird way with Tina Turner because I saw her. I went to a festival in Seattle. I think it was Bumbershoot, which happens in the fall. So I want to say this is the fall of 1982, and I went to Bumbershoot as I used to do every year, and they always brought in, a bunch of musical acts. There was always just pretty amazing bill, actually, of just a variety of different musical acts that would come through over the course of this 3 or 4 day festival. And I remember being there in 1982. And, there's so many bands, you can't keep up with all the bands. I mean, you really got to, pay attention to know who's performing in which venue at any given time because there's so many bands coming in and out in this festival. And I just remember walking into one of the buildings and going, Tina Turner's playing over here in the Coliseum. Oh, that's isn't that cool? Tina Turner, yeah, she's kind of that old nostalgia thing, Proud Mary and River Deep and Mountain High and Nutbush City Limits, right? Yeah, Tina Turner. And always liked Tina, of course, always respected Tina. Always thought Tina was a pretty cool performer. And so I just thought, hey, yeah, that might be kind of fun to go see Tina Turner, go see her do her hip shaking and her rock and roll thing there, right? And I just remember going and watching Tina Turner do her set, and I'm guessing maybe she played for an hour, performed for an hour. Just a crack band, a really great band. She's got the dancers on the stage, they're doing the whole thing, and she is just singing her ass off. I mean, her voice just sounded so incredible live. And I remember thinking, wow, well, always knew, Tina was pretty charismatic and pretty powerful singer. And I knew she could really let it rip. But I think there was something, and as I was saying, she's in her early 40s, right? I mean, this is not, exactly optimum time for a comeback as a performer, as a singer. She's up there in her early 40s letting it rip, and she looks like $1,000,000. She's in shape. She's moving and shimmying and shaking and doing everything that that Tina Turner used to do back there in the day. She is moving and grooving. You expected all of that, right? But her voice, the vocal talent there really is what sort of caught me off guard. And I remember standing pretty close to the stage there and watching her whole set. And as I said, I guess maybe she would have played for maybe an hour. And I just remember thinking when she was done, and of course the crowd just went absolutely nuts. I mean, she was the hardest working woman in showbiz up there. She was putting on a show and earning every dime of it. And I just remember coming out of there and going, wow, I sort of maybe underestimated Tina Turner, thinking of her in all these years, since the 70s there, since her and Ike stopped making hits, right? I thought maybe I had underestimated Tina, and I sort of looked at her in a different light, and I thought, wow, it's kind of weird, that in the pop, rock, and soul landscape as it was there in 1982, I remember thinking, wow, it's kind of weird that an artist like Tina Turner is, here doing this festival and playing her oldies and playing her, her greatest hits from her career, right? The nostalgia side of it. How is she like this nostalgia artist when she's still obviously got so much juice, and so much juice, not only in her, her physical part of her performances, but vocally, that she just sounds, her voice had just aged beautifully, and that she just sounded incredible as a singer. I just remember thinking, wow, there's a place in the pop, rock, and soul universe here in 1982 for someone like Tina Turner to do some damage, man, because she's still got it. She's still got it. And that was about a year before. So I saw that little Tina Turner show, went my way and didn't think much more about it. And about a year later, this single shows up. It is Tina Turner doing the remake of Let's Stay Together. As I said, late 1983, gets all the way up to number 26 on the pop chart, number 1 on the dance chart for Let's Stay Together, number 3 on the R&B chart. Here we go, in across the board, crossover smash hit, number 6 in the UK. Now, this single, they do this single, Tina Turner, produced there by Martyn Ware and the guys from Heaven 17. They do this single. And just as she got signed to Capitol on the basis of the strength of the collaboration, the previous one there for Ball of Confusion, well, this one goes over so big, and as I said, is such a huge hit in so many different crossover markets and internationally, that they immediately get her back in the studio to do the rest of an album. And that is where, in about 6 months later, we got Tina Turner's epic comeback album, her career-defining moment out of nowhere. Well, it really wasn't out of nowhere because Tina was working and getting ready for this moment. But Private Dancer drops there in the spring of 1984, and as you know, that is it. Tina Turner's career has just landed in a very, very big way. 12 million albums sold worldwide for Private Dancer. You may recall back there in the early 80s, it cleaned up at the Grammys, 4 out of a possible 6 Grammy nominations delivered there with the award for Tina Turner. Just a huge record, Private Dancer. What a great album. The career-defining album for Tina Turner, and one of the decade-defining albums for the 1980s, certainly. And it cuts across all of the musical boundaries, pop, rock, and soul. Tina Turner covering it all. But I want to share with you guys this one, because this is where it started. And when I heard this there in 1983, I went, oh my God, these guys saw the same thing that I had seen the year before. They saw it. They saw that juice in Tina Turner, and they knew she still had some work to do. It was just a matter of getting the right material. And they did, and whoever had the foresight and the wisdom to say, you know what, why don't we do something a little crazy and do a remake of that Al Green song? What a incredibly smart decision that was, and it ends up changing the fortunes of Tina Turner's life and career virtually overnight. From 1983, it is the queen of rock and roll herself, Tina Turner, and Let's Stay Together.
Let me say the same, baby, since we've been together, loving you forever is all I need. Let me be the one you come running to. I'll never be untrue.
goodness, Tina is just killing me on this one. Now, come on, folks. Aretha Franklin, Shaka Khan, Gladys Knight, Tina Turner. She's right there in that conversation with those other queens. Those are the giants, folks. Those are the giants. And it may have been easy back there in the day to overlook Tina Turner for a few minutes. But boy, when they came back, not only with this song, but with the rest of that Private Dancer album, but man, this song was such a great start. What a great launch to her comeback. When they came back with this, she served notice. She is just, like I say, she's 42, 43 years old when they're recording this. She is just primed, just what a great, I can't even talk. I just love this so much. Okay, so I heard this back there in 1983, and as I said, after just about a little over a year having seen Tina Turner previously there just randomly in that live performance and thinking, wow, she's still got a lot to give the world musically. And then they turn around with this a year later, a thoroughly inspired choice for a cover. Not a lot of people were thinking about Al Green right at that precise moment there in the early 80s. A little bit of a quiet time there. They snuck in an Al Green cover. And I'm sorry, man. Tina's such a dynamic performer with the dancing and the looks and the whole thing that... and she's such a belter, of course, at times when she wants to do that. But she's such a dynamic performer, such a belter, it is easy to forget what an accomplished singer she is. She is truly one of the great female soul singers of all time. And like all of the great female soul singers, and I mentioned a few of them there, Aretha, Shaka, and Gladys Knight, just to name a few, You talk about Tina Turner, man, and everything that she's experienced in her life, all the joy and pain, the beauty and the bittersweet, pain and the hurt, it's all right there in her voice. She makes a direct connection to those emotions through her voice. And it's all in her singing, man. She lets it all out in her singing. It is pure emotion. And here she is, like I said, in her early 40s, letting it rip, sounding like an absolute queen. And she was just getting started because she goes on a roll there for basically most of the next 20 years into her 60s. And she is still sounding like $1,000,000. And I've got some other stuff. We haven't even scratched the surface on some of the great Tina Turner stuff. She's got some things that just go straight to my soul that we will definitely be playing later. And you have to sort of be in awe to think that Tina Turner just kept working, just kept trying to stay alive there in the business. She as I said, gets a little bit lucky maybe there, who knows, with the collaboration with Martyn Ware and the guys from Heaven 17. They pull off a couple songs, including this one, and the next thing you know, the world and the record-buying public and the record company, thankfully, recognized this right off the bat and said, we got to get us an album out there because Tina has still got the juice and she's got a lot to deliver here as an artist and certainly as a singer. Talk about coming back out of nowhere and claiming your spot on the throne. She did that in such a big way there in the early 80s. The great Tina Turner, and like I said, man, some of the stuff that came later, she's got some stuff that just cuts right to my soul. Love Tina. Love, love, love it. Glad to see that someone saw that little spark there that I had seen in 1982, and look where it went. Private Dancer, the whole rest of her career, just absolutely nuts. What a turnaround for the great Tina Turner. She deserved every bit of it. Back with some more. See ya. Okay.